For this week's podcast on English.com, we're in the land of the cowboy films, the spaghetti westerns. But we're not in the Wild West of America, we're in the wild southeast of Spain, Almeria.
Yeah, we're in cowboy country. Well, it's the film set where many of the so-called spaghetti westerns were made. For example, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly.
Yes, they've actually reconstructed the whole town.
A typical cowboy town in Texas, isn't it?
They've got the blacksmiths, of course, because they all rode horses.
A hotel.
And, of course, also the graveyard is at the end of town.
And if there's a graveyard, there has to be the undertakers.
And a church.
And then they've got some kind of normal shops, really. There's the dentist and the barbers.
Yes, and you can't have a cowboy town without the liquor store, of course.
And perhaps most importantly, you can't have a cowboy town without the bank.
Exactly, yes.
Or, for that matter, Richard, the saloon bar.
The Yellow Rose saloon bar in this case.
Yeah, which had typical swing doors.
Yes, and a cowboy inside, we met him.
And there's a kind of a stage, wasn't there, for the dancing girls.
And we had to have a drink.
But, Richard, I was disappointed because you had a beer.
Yes, I didn't have a whiskey out of a dirty glass.
Yeah, which you knocked back at the end of the bar. And other shops as well. I mean, just typical street scenes, weren't they?
Well, they'd changed some of the stores, hadn't they? They were actually selling tourist stuff nowadays. But it all looked very, very real.
Fantastic. And the backdrop, I mean, you really could be in the Wild West of America, couldn't you?
Yes, all the cacti. And, yes, the scenes were very reminiscent of the Wild West.
Now, you mentioned the tourists, Richard. They put on a show, don't they?
It was a reconstruction of I think it was a bank job. No, it was they were rescuing a baddie from the jail, I think.
I don't know what was happening, but it started off with a fight.
Yes, they were fighting on top of the building, and one of the guys, he fell off the balcony, didn't he?
Yeah, and then there was a very bizarre hanging scene, but somehow he managed to get away. I was a bit confused with the storyline.
I think it was a reconstruction from an actual event.
But then there was more fighting. Somehow the guy survived, and there was more fighting.
And then, in the end, one guy died. I think he was shot many times.
But it was good fun, wasn't it, Richard?
It was, actually, very good.
I think for people who are fans of spaghetti westerns, it's definitely a must, isn't it?
And you could also meet the cowboys afterwards and, of course, have your photo taken with them.